Ange, Rob and Robbo.
Streaming live across the globe, Anjali Rao, Rob McKnight and David Robinson.
Ange, Rob and Robbo. News and views, entertainment too. It's the Ange, Rob and Robbo. Ange, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ange, Rob and Robbo Show.
Hello there. Well, ready for a big new week of the Ange, Rob and Robbo Show. I'm Rob McKnight. Joining me is David Robinson and the one and only Anjali Rao. Ange, something looks a bit different about you today. What is it?
Yeah, look, you know how I said that I wanted to get some of my COVID kilos off? Well, I've lost about 2 kilos just in hair alone. Like, seriously, my lockdown locks were threatening to strangle me in the night. And, you know, I started referring to myself in the third person as Rapunzel. And when that happens, you know, it's time for the job.
I love it. Well, you look fabulous. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. When we all logged on before the show, Amanda said to me, notice Ange's hair, because she knows how terrible I am with that stuff.
No, do you think you actually had to tell me that, Rob? Seriously, I was sitting there for 10 minutes, and as soon as you said, Ange, your hair looks amazing, I thought, thanks, Amanda.
Hey, look, well, today we have a very special guest joining us. She's back with us as our first guest panellist of the year. Please welcome the one and only Prue MacSween. Hello, Prue.
Hello,
guys.
Prue.
And can I just say, Ange, if you've lost 2 COVID kilos shaving your hair or cutting your hair, I'm going to shave my pubes and hair and legs and see what I
Oh my God.
Oh.
Prue MacSween, ladies and gentlemen. She's here all night, so enjoy the controversy. All right, let's get into our hot topics because there's plenty to discuss tonight. And as we go to where Melbourne authorities are investigating a possible transmission of the mutant coronavirus strain between quarantine hotel rooms. A family of 5 and a woman housed across the hall have all tested positive to the COVID vaccine, to a strain of the virus. A review of CCTV found the family did not breach quarantine and there was no crossover between air through ventilation. Authorities say there is a working assumption that the viral load from the family's room was so high that it spread from the family's room when the door was opening during food deliveries. Prue, there is still so much we don't know about this virus. Even when people are doing the right thing, it can spread.
Well, yes, when I first heard this, I thought, oh, was this a couple of random, people who got together and bumped bits on the quiet? But when we heard it was a family group and an older lady, I thought, well, that's not going to happen unless there was some weird thing going on. But, it is a huge worry about this whole issue of COVID because we really, as you say, don't know enough about it. We have this situation where Melbourne in particular has really mishandled the whole quarantine hotel issue. And while they're saying that it hasn't seeped through the air conditioning, and what are we saying, that this is this vapid stream of COVID, bacteria getting out and escaping into the hallway. Well, how did that happen that the other woman got it? It all just seems very strange to me. And what it is telling telling us all, is that, we are being a bit cavalier in some of the states when it comes to the quarantine hotels. We've seen it again in WA. And, we need to be more stringent. I mean, in WA, they still, until last week, were not insisting that the people who were policing it were wearing masks. I mean, for God's sake, it's we know they're a bit slower in the West, but that's
come on, Prue.
Oh,
come on.
Here we go.
No, that gal, I tell you, he's a drip.
But hang on, Prue. Is this because? I want to ask you about this because I'm a Sydney-sider, but I've moved up to Queensland, and I got to tell you, I am so sick of people from Sydney having a go at the borders up here in Queensland and telling Anastasia Palaszczuk what to do. And I think you might be one of them, Prue.
Oh, Robbie, I totally am. I think she's an absolute cow. And the thing that annoys me is that you know, she's now getting the begging bowl out. It's fine. She wanted to grandstand and make everyone feel safe and secure. And that's lovely. Good on her. And she got herself re-elected for another 4 years. But she's also crippled your state. I mean, you went into COVID owing millions and millions and millions of dollars. You are now a basket case. And she's got the begging bowl out, expecting the rest of us to fund her electioneering campaign and bail everybody out. I'm sorry. You know.
Yeah, but you know what? As a Queenslander, what I will say is a Queenslander now living here for 2 years, we've had a normal life up here, Prue. We haven't had to wear what? Robbo.
Didn't you just say that you were a Sydney sider, but I'm up here, and then 1 minute later, I'm a Queenslander?
It's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance.
But you're saying that you'd never be accepted as a Queenslander.
No,
so in the last 24 hours,
I stand by that. Sorry, there's been a lot going on. My mind's a bit all over the place, I'm going to be honest. But my point is, living up here, things have been relatively normal, and that's because of these border closures. And it's always people from Sydney, Prue, saying, don't you dare do that, Sydney. I tell you what, it's a little grating.
Well, grate away, honey bunny. But the thing is, don't ask us to grate you cut a deal when it comes to bailing you out. You know, your economy is stuffed. It's ruined. And, you know, while Labor is in, and this Sheila, who is just, you know, she spins it like a top. She's one of the past masters. But, you know, she has killed that state. And you expect us to bail you out? Well, I'm sorry. I don't believe our dollar should go to do that. She's made a bed, let her lie in it, and you're going to have to get into bed with her.
Prue.
Speaking of getting to bed, Prue, you were telling me off air earlier that 9 o'clock is far too late for you and you would be fast asleep by now. If this is what you're like when you're meant to be fast asleep, what the hell are you like when you're wide awake?
Well, let's just say I talk in my sleep. I'm just one of those people that just, you know, wind me up and I'm like a bunny, ever-ready bunny.
I really love you, Prue, even when I disagree with you. I love you to bits.
Thanks.
Look, let's move on because there are other stories happening, and it's finally happened. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has given outspoken MP Craig Kelly a very big dressing down. Critics have been calling on the PM to rein in Mr Kelly for months due to his alternative and damaging theories regarding COVID-19. Among others, the backbencher has suggested that children shouldn't wear masks and COVID can be treated with head lice medication. The PM made it clear he was undermining the government's vaccine program. Ange, it feels like the pressure has been on Prime Minister Scott Morrison to do this for a long time. Is this too little too late from the PM? Craig Kelly has caused a lot of damage.
Absolutely. It was ludicrously late. It's insane. I would have kicked Kelly to the curb by now. End of story. Let alone have waited a full day to give him a talking to. You know, 24 hours is a very long time when you're in a pandemic. And when you've got nufties, you know, sitting there spouting absolute nonsense like Craig Kelly, who already has form for doing precisely that. What on earth are you doing, Morrison? Seriously. I mean, it made him look a little bit on the pathetic side, if you ask me, because this is a time, you know, greater than ever when he needs to look strong and as a leader. And the rules that everybody's been living under for the last year are confusing and contradictory enough. That the Prime Minister didn't shut Craig Kelly down immediately and publicly flies in the face of the constant assertion that, oh, you've got to take reliable evidence only from government official websites or reputable medical sources. But then this was allowed to continue in the background from somebody who has form of doing this. So which is it? It's just so bloody confusing.
What do you think, Robbo? We live in a free society. Are people allowed to spew their own views, whether they're right or wrong?
I think if you're an elected official, absolutely not. And especially if you're part of the federal government, they're spending billions of dollars trying to educate people. There's already, a certain amount of trepidation in the electorate across the country about taking the vaccine in the first place. We've seen a lot of different people coming out and just sowing those seeds of doubt. So I think it's really bad. I think the mistake that we probably keep making is that we try to use leadership and Scott Morrison in the same sentence, and they're polar opposites. They don't really fit together, and we've seen this classically over the last couple of months where he hasn't brought him into line. He hasn't maintained that this is the direction of government, because they've had, people like Craig Kelly talking all of this rubbish. And it's taken now for him to be pulled in and said, look, you're not helping. I think this is ridiculous. Too little, too late, because so many people are listening to him. And it was also announced that Craig Kelly's going to appear with Pete Evans on his podcast. So if that happens, then you've got to lose all faith in that system there if he appears with Pete Evans on a podcast talking about not getting vaccinated and things like that.
Well, look, It does appear the final straw for the PM was Craig Kelly's showdown with Labor's tenure plebiscite in the corridors of Parliament. Have a look at this.
Okay. My mum lives in your electorate, and I don't want her exposed to people who are not going to be vaccinated
listen to Robert,
because of these crazy conspiracy theories that you're spreading.
Well, you're the one doing that because you are the one spreading misinformation. Right? You've got to listen to the professors, listen to our most senior immunologists. And
so your Prime Minister is wrong, is he?
No, Prime Minister is 100% right.
He agrees with you.
I'm saying you are wrong.
Scott Morrison agrees with you, does he, Craig?
My Prime Minister will speak for himself. Listen to the words of our most senior immunologist. Today, in the Sydney Morning Herald,
I'll listen to the Chief Medical Officer and all our health advisors.
Well, our health advisor has to be our most senior credentialed immunologist, Professor Robert Clancy, and he has said, Sydney Morning Herald today, Craig Kelly is absolutely right. Please, Tanya, please. Stop spreading this misinformation.
Prime Minister and your health minister.
Stop spreading this information.
Do you agree with your Prime Minister and your health minister?
Tell your people in Labor to stop spreading this information about me, because they are the ones causing confusion in the public, and they are the ones that need to be reined in. Young children, Tanya, should not wear masks. And that is what our health officers have decided.
Is it child abuse?
Our health officers in this country agree with me.
Well, it's believed once that was broadcast this morning, Mr. Kelly got the call to meet with Scott Morrison. Prue, I'm really interested what you think of this.
Well, yeah.
Go on.
That was all staged, I believe, that she happened to be doing her, her further bid to become leader of the Labor opposition. And, she timed it when she knew Kelly would be walking down the hall. Look, I like Craig Kelly. I think a lot of his views I support, particularly when it comes to the climate change fiasco and Roos. However, I think that he's gone a bit off the rails with this. We have to listen to the health experts. I agree with Robbo that appearing with Peter Evans was a stupid move, because that bloke is a cuckoo clock and has no credibility whatsoever. So, I think Craig was crazy to do that. But, I think in the end, Morrison had to rein him in, but he's able to express his views. I think if we're going to have all these boring people all agreeing with each other, I think it's really important that we encourage debate and we elect people to be able to represent, and there will be a lot of people who agree with him. So I think we need to, in the end, Morrison's made the right call. He's shut him up because it's not the government's view, but I believe the guy has a right to express himself.
I actually agree with you. People do have the right to express themselves. I guess there is a level of responsibility. It's one thing for the guy to express himself, but if it's contradicting the government and the medical advice, then you're right. Morrison was right to pull him in. I just feel Morrison should have done it earlier. It's like he was trying to avoid having to get in the middle of it because he didn't want to be seen as the bad guy. That's not leadership, Prue.
No, but although I think that, I don't agree with Robbo about Morrison and his lack of leadership. I mean, he's led them bloody well. I mean, he's making Albanese look like a little rank amateur.
Oh, well, Albanese's dead in the water. We all know that. And you're right, Plibersek will be the next leader of the...
Yeah.
Well,
although, maybe not, because she's one of those Chardonnay socialists too that's in the inner city. She's not representing the bloody workers. The Labor Party was built on the blue-collar workers, and they're so far from that, and she's just as bad. Yeah. She may be more articulate and look better in a frock, but that's about it.
But do you think, Prue, that there's there's no personality in Labor, is there? There's no one there that you want to listen to, that you're drawn into with a speech. Or do you think that's also a big problem?
Oh, definitely. I mean, looking at Bill Shorten, remember when he used to run in front of cameras every time he could do it? You know, he knew a camera was around to show you his fit, except his man boobs almost knocked him out.
Oh, Prue.
Yikes.
And then, you know, he's going to have, you know, who else have they got? I mean, Tanya might don some Lycra, but that's about the scale of it. They have no one with any credibility, apart from Joel Fitzgibbon. I mean, as a Conservative, I am worried that if they wake up to themselves and put Fitzgibbon in, then they've got a good chance of gaining power, and that would be bloody curtains for this country, because you imagine them, all they know, the socialists know what to do, is to bloody spend money that we haven't got, and, you know, make sure the unions are happy. So,
Prue, would you ever support Labor?
I voted for them once, much to my shame. But
Oh dear.
I would support Labor. I believe it or not, even though I'm a rabid Conservative, if I believe there was a good leader who had the economic wherewithal, someone like bloody Keating or even Hawke, then maybe I would consider it. But, you know, at the moment, there's nobody in that party I would give 5 cents to. You know, they're pathetic. So keep it up, boys. I'm happy. Stay in opposition for another 10 years.
All right. Well, look, a woman has claimed she was humiliated after she was told to cover up by Jetstar staff as she was boarding a flight. Instagram and OnlyFans model Isabel Eleanor was wearing a black crop top and jeans when she was stopped as she boarded by a flight attendant who believed her clothes were inappropriate for flying. She was given a high-vis vest to wear.
And I had to walk down to my seat wearing this high-vis vest. Everyone's staring at me. I was humiliated. It was so embarrassing. Everyone was looking. It's 2021. I should be able to wear what I want to wear. If you were wearing a singlet showing your nipples down the side, you wouldn't have been judged the way that I was judged. It's just because I'm a woman.
Oh, give it up. Sorry.
Jetstar has since apologised over the incident. And do you think she's right? Would it have been different if she was a bloke and the nipples were showing? Would that be all right on a flight?
Right. It would have been exactly the same if the guy was dressed in jeans and a bralette. Unless that guy in question happened to be the current king of Thailand, to whom such rules do not apply. But also, God, be serious. It's not even about that. She did it on purpose for exactly the sort of attention that she's getting now, including from us. There is at least one story a week in this country on exactly the same type of people as her, doing exactly the same thing and getting exactly the same result, and they all cry exactly the same twaddle. It's discrimination.
Do you know what? That's fine, and I'm happy to give her the publicity and say you are an idiot, woman. You can't just have your boobs out on a flight and think, oh, that's okay. Here, boys, have a look. You know, there's places and times for that. Go do it on your Instagram poster, but not on a flight where there are business people and families. Grow up. Prue, I've taken your role.
Well, darling, yeah, but I don't agree with. Look, I think, Ange, you're right. She did it because she wanted to, you know, build her bloody followers. But at the same time, I don't think her boobs were that much to worry about. You know, I mean, she needs another couple of pump-ups in or new silicone job because, you know, they weren't that huge. I mean, I suppose if you were offering chicken or beef, you might be looking down at the cleavage. But really, I don't understand what all the fuss was. I mean, maybe all the
if it makes you happy, Prue. If it makes you happy a little bit later on, if it makes you happy a bit later on in the show, we are talking about Dolly Parton. So if you just hang on to that.
I'm a lot more comfortable with her. But I just think that, you know, when an airline starts telling you how you can dress, she was sitting in a bloody seat, in a middle seat, where you see blokes get on with thongs and stubbies on with all their package sort of almost hanging down their leg. I try and get the phone number, by the way. No, but I mean, and you just think, oh my God.
What planes have you been on?
You what?
I don't understand. What aircraft do you go on? Or have you just been watching snakes on a plane again?
No, but Jetstar, no one dressed to go on a plane anymore. When planes were first used, everyone dressed up as though they were going to a cocktail party or to church. But I just think, it's much ado about nothing. And the fact that Jetstar apologised shows that they really, I think went over and above.
Okay. I've got to ask, though, she's a model?
Yeah, I know. That's the whole thing, right? If she had a proper argument with Jetstar, she would have dealt with it, privately, in quiet correspondence, not screaming it from the rooftops. And when you do that, sorry, love, you're just trying to get the spotlight on you and your OnlyFans page. So just leave the discrimination to people who are actually discriminated against. That would be
guys.
good.
Hey, no, guys. Look, sorry, guys. It's really sad. This woman is an Instagram influencer. She's on OnlyFans. She's just trying to live a private life where she gets no attention. People. She said, people were looking at me in the plane. That's not fair. She's just a private person trying to live her life. What an absolute joke. What a bloody idiot.
I know.
That's my point. Yeah. Oh, my God.
All right. Well, there you go. Hey, look, with Google threatening to leave Australia over the proposed media code, which would see it have to pay big publishers for content, the Greens are pushing for the government to create a publicly owned and independent search engine for Australia. While it was only ever a veiled threat, many companies like Bing are desperate to fill any void left by Google. But the Greens say we need a search engine funded and operated in a model like the ABC. Now, Ange, there are a few things to unpack here. Google are never going to leave Australia, but should we create a data-safe search engine?
Yeah, no, I'm not loving this idea. I mean, haven't we all seen how the government has managed the interweb so far? They shouldn't be let anywhere near it. Nowhere near it. Okay, so let's just pretend for a little bit that this would actually happen, that if Google did stay here, which of course they will, and that we'd still establish our very own search engine that, according to Sarah Hanson-Young, would be set up with this ironclad data privacy policy to make certain that users knew exactly what they were getting into, exactly what data was being shared, what it was being used for. Oh, it's all just so peace, love and mung beans, isn't it, at the start? But every tech entity knows that as soon as whatever your intentions were at the beginning, the rules all change as soon as you get really powerful. And that's exactly, I think, what's happening with Google. Because when they start to lord it over international governments, you kind of go, somebody's feeling a little bit threatened over there in Google paradise. So, while they're on top of the search engine thing now, it's certainly not written in blood, and there are absolutely viable alternatives out there. And I think we should be looking at those much more closely, as loath as the Greens are to invite another global behemoth into our midst. I think that's a much more safe idea.
But let me ask you this. Robbo. The idea, these tech companies are harvesting all of our data and they're using it to make money. The benefit I can see by the government doing this is that our information would be kept private.
There's that argument, but I really have a problem with the government of the country being in charge of something like a Google search. So what we will see is, I reckon, corruption, where it could be that if you search the Labor Party, all you'll get is, maybe it's down a few rungs, or if they're in power, then the Liberals are down a few rungs on the search engine. I just think it's a little bit too icky to leave it up to government to use a search engine. We see it with the ABC. So with the ABC, we see that it is independent, but there's an awful lot of pressure. And you can tell that the Liberals especially would love the ABC to be kind of a government mouthpiece, and they don't do that. So I have a real big problem. The other...
They do it for the Labor Party.
Oh.
Yes.
What do you think?
The other thing,
would you trust the government with your data?
darling, they probably get a cheap thrill out of it. But look, no, I just don't think government should be in that in business like that.
Agreed.
And you look at China where they censor things, and look, frankly, the fact that the Greens are recommending it. Sarah Hanson-Wrong is such an idiot that's enough for me to say no. They are a bunch of fools, and so don't give them the time of day. They're idiots.
Prue, do you compile a list of names and go, oh, Sarah Hanson, Young, wrong? You've got these zingers ready to go for everyone.
Oh, darling, I mean, they deserve it. These people irritate me so much, and I just even hate saying their names. So if I can do something to put them down when I do have to mention them, I'm quite happy.
I'm really happy that you like me.
Well, definitely not Rob McNaught. I love you as my knight in Shining Armour.
Wow.
Okay, guys. Oh, my
I'm getting all hot and bothered here. Wowzers. I can only move on from there. Look, comedian and host of the project, Peter Hellier, has come out and apologised after footage has resurfaced from a segment in 2017. The comment in question came after fellow co-host Waleed Ali interviewed former Collingwood Magpies player Harati Lamagumba. Ange, how do you say that name?
Oh dear. Aritie Lumumba.
Thank you. I knew you'd know it because I think you're friends
welcome.
with him. About alleged racism within the club. Have a look.
Well done, Waleed. I know it's a tricky interview because you didn't have Collingwood side of the story because they wouldn't go on the record. But Heredia has the opportunity to become a really strong, significant voice in the battle against racism with the AFL in Australian sport. My only thing, it'd be really helpful if we heard more detail, specifically with the nickname. Like you said, we tried to reach out and we can't find anyone who would speak to us who knew of that nickname over a playing career of 10 years. And if we hear, even if you have to name names, if we take us into your experience, paint the picture so we understand it more. Because if you don't do that, then it sounds like you're smearing an entire club.
With racism in the AFL in the headlines at the moment after the findings in the Collingwood report, the video has been scrutinised, resulting in an apology from Peter Hellier, who took to Twitter to say, I urge all fans and members to demand better from the Collingwood Football Club. This report is heartbreaking. I am truly unequivocally sorry. I should have believed you. I will do better. And it appears it wasn't just fans of the player who were upset by the comment. The man himself tweeted, the project sent me a request to be on their program. I considered it for a moment, then remembered what happened in 2017. Okay, I'm going to profess here, I don't know what the fuss is about. I took it that Hellier was saying it would be nice to hear witnesses come up. In actual fact, it sounded like a call out to the people who know this is going on, that they should step up. Robert, what am I missing? I know I'm not getting something.
I agree with you. I think Prue kind of touched on it earlier in the program about the essentially the death of the debate. I don't think that he needed to apologise for that. I think that on a panel show, that's what he's on. That's what we're on. We're here to talk about the opinions, and we're here to discuss and debate. And I believe that I didn't see anything racist from Peter Hellier. I think that it was, like you said, almost a call to action. I really don't like this because I think, unfortunately, he had no choice but to apologise because the mob would have gone after him and said, oh, how dare you, you're racist. But he wasn't. And yeah, I'm really big on this, and I just want to reiterate that point. Like Prue said, it's the death of debate. This is another nail in the coffin for that, in my opinion.
Ange, what do you think?
I think it came across sort of, unfortunately, in just a really clumsy way that maybe implied, unless you name names, because he said something like, what's the effect of, unless you give us names, you need to bring us into your experience, essentially going, unless you tell us that there are other people, then it didn't happen. think that's what the connotation was. But I also think that in the current context, we have to look at how drastically the world has changed in the last year in as far as race relations, let alone in the last 4 years since the comments were made. You know, Black Lives Matter means that everybody feels as if they have to take back everything that they've ever said and that may have even been slightly perceived as racist or even, you know, tiny little bit insensitive. But you know, Rob, that, you know, I know Aritier, and at the time when he was in the Collingwood Football Club, he was very open with me about what he was going through, and it was really, really bad. But I also, I know Pete as well. I've hosted with him several times on the project, and I can imagine that he only thought that he was doing his job as, well, he's a comedian, but he's also in a journalistic capacity in asking questions that maybe he thought other people were thinking. And back then, maybe you could say it, but now it's totally different. And I think...
Is this because is it because it came across that he wasn't believing the racism? Because is that in doubt that there was racism?
That's what it came across as. That's
right.
Certainly what the implications were. And obviously, even Aritier's response to being asked to come on the show in the last 24 hours and just going, yeah, nah, considered it and no, because of what happened last time. He obviously took it that his credibility on something very hurtful, very, very painful and very important to him was being raked over the coals and disbelieved. But I really don't think that Pete meant it in that way.
No, I don't either. It's interesting that you talk about the fact that things have changed in 4 years. Things do change, and we're now at this point, this case outside, but we're re-looking at everything and comments you may have said 4 years ago or 20 years ago through the lens of 2021. I think what we should be doing here is being grateful and happy that these issues are now coming to the forefront. And what your friend has gone through at Collingwood sounds horrific. And there is a whole report backing up what he has said. Even though he didn't take part in the report for his own reasons, he's been backed up. And he's been suppressed for so many years, and he's had the courage to stand up for that. And we've seen it with Adam Goodes when he's been booed and called an ape and all these kind of things. You know, what has been going on in sporting, and possibly Greater Australia, is horrific. I just think they're picking on the wrong guy with Pete.
Yeah, I think you do definitely have a point there. It was uncomfortable to hear him apologise, and in such a sort of falling on his sword type of way. But I think it's what he must have thought that everybody required, just because of where we are in the world today from BLM.
Yeah.
Well, knowing how woke that program is, he was probably pressured into it too, don't forget. But
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, and look, no one. I think it's appalling if this poor man and Goodes and anyone else felt that they were being treated in this way. No one. And basically, I don't believe Australia is a racist country, and I think it's very sad that they've been subjected to this. But I also have a huge worry.
I've experienced horrible racism here, Prue. I've experienced horrible racism.
I don't see that.
Yes,
I don't see that at all. I think I see us embracing people from all different countries, and provided they don't want to come here and change our way of life or want to kill us, then I think we're very accepting. But I really don't like the way things are going with this, desire to rewrite history and cancel this whole cancel culture thing. We should be able to express our views. And as you said, Rob, your views of a few years ago, as we mature or as the culture of a country and the environment changes, then we may change or soften our views. But to throw them back at people, I just think is quite appalling. And, I just really have issues about us now having to, before you open your mouth, having to edit yourself. And I just think that, we should be able to freely express our views as long as we are not making anyone hurt. But we have these incredibly ridiculous laws now where we can get sued because we're expressing our opinions and someone decides that they are going to become a bedwetter and have to suck their thumbs in bed for the rest of their life because their little sensitivities have been hurt. And I just think
it's interesting. It's interesting, Prue, because having Ange on the panel, who I got to be honest, you know, you wouldn't really think race would be an issue for you, Ange. I've got to be honest, I've never thought of that in the slightest, but it has been. You've written articles about it.
Absolutely. Yes, I certainly have. And again, that was all a very, very scary thing to do. So, you know, for the benefit of our viewers who might not know, I'm half Australian. My mother is from Bendigo and my father was Indian. And so, you know, I was born an Australian. The minute I popped out, I was an Australian. But the racist crap that I've endured here since I moved back here for the second time 8 years ago, I never knew that either. People told me that it would happen, and I didn't believe them at all. It's been absolutely appalling. But then I was told, you know, shut your mouth, don't say a single thing. It'll just sound like sour grapes, and you'll be told to go back to where you came from, which of course makes me laugh because it's like, what, Bendigo? But then when I deigned to open my mouth and say what it really is, and, you know, certainly my experiences, the backlash was absolutely hideous. Granted, it was mostly from white blokes who don't know anything about the subject, and I don't think really have a right to comment. But it was appalling. So I stayed silent again for the next few years until recently, and then just went, nah, enough.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and you talked about those white blokes who wouldn't put you on TV, and you know, made decisions that you didn't suit an Australian audience. You. I love you, Ange, you know that, and we had a lot of fun at Studio 10, and you've done and you're going to be a real housewife of Melbourne, for God's sake.
I know. People might actually learn how to pronounce my name. Yeah.
Well, we all know Anjali Rao. I hope I'm getting it right. I've been saying it that way for all the years we've known each other.
Perfect. I know. You're one of the few, and I really appreciate it.
All right. It's time for a change of tone because it is time to get the latest news headlines with Ange.
Indeed. Let us take a look at those news headlines for this Wednesday, the 3rd of February 2021. Claremont serial killer Bradley Robert Edwards will not appeal his murder convictions or the jail term handed down. The killer had until 4 p.m. Perth time today to file any applications, but failed to do so. The case is now formally over. WA's Department of Fire and Emergency Services is warning people in the region northwest of Girigana and east of Wallanga National Park it's no longer safe to leave and they need to shelter in their homes. So far, 71 homes have been destroyed by fire. More are expected to be confirmed. Authorities say if you are being advised to evacuate, don't worry about the COVID lockdown. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison by a Russian court on charges that he violated the terms of his probation while recuperating in Germany from nerve agent poisoning. While in court, Mr. Navalny denounced the hearing, calling it a vain attempt by the Kremlin to scare millions of Russians into submission. Well, there's breaking news in the world of NRL with news the Dragons have ceased discussions with Israel Folau. The controversial player has settled out of court with Rugby Australia after posting a series of homophobic remarks on social media. It's understood Manly and the West Tigers have shown interest in securing his services, even though he hasn't played football in 2 years. And Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has announced he is stepping down as CEO later this year. Mr. Bezos will still be a part of the company that he founded in 1994 and will transition to executive chair of Amazon's board. He has a net worth of 239 billion Aussie dollars. That is according to Bloomberg's Billionaire Index, because there is such a thing. And now to the weather. Cairns will reach 31 while there's a possible shower in Brisbane. A mostly sunny day for Sydney. The clouds will be out for Canberra and Melbourne. Showers are developing for Adelaide while Perth remains sunny, as does Alice Springs. Darwin is facing a possible storm and 31 degrees. Well, Well, now I fancy a little bit of entertainment, don't you? I think it's over to our stunning showbiz guru, Jason Roses.
Of your hair. Coming up in my entertainment report, it's an Aussie institution, but today Channel 10 at the iconic Totally Wild. I'll have all the big happen to what it means for kids TV in Australia. Actor Sam Neill breaks up with his partner of 3 years, but you won't believe who she was, and how did we not know? Dolly Parton redoes her classic song 9 to 5 with a clever twist, and it was the role that ended up going to Joel Creasy. Just wait until you find out who was fired from the role first. All that and so much more is coming up in the entertainment report shortly on the Ange, Rob and Robbo show. Now here's Robbo.
Jason, thank you very much for that. We look forward to seeing your entertainment report a little later in the show. But for now, let's take a look at what has happened on this day, February 3rd, throughout history. And it was on this day in 1882 that circus owner P.T. Barnum bought his world-famous elephant, Jumbo. It was this elephant and its name that spawned the common word jumbo, meaning large in size. Jumbo Jet, Jumbo Marshmallows, and of course Jumbo Jr. in Disney's Dumbo. All originated from this one elephant. Alrighty, it was on this day back home in 1967 when the last execution took place in Australia. Ronald Ryan was hanged in prison in Melbourne after being found guilty of shooting and killing a warder during an escape from that same prison. His hanging was met with mass public protests, and the death penalty was later abolished here in the country. And finally, it was on this day in 1959 when Buddy Holly, Richie Valens and J.P. Richardson were killed in a plane crash in Iowa. The event inspired Don McLean's classic hit American Pie, and this date has since become known as the day the music died. Let's have a listen.
But something touched me deep inside the day the music died.
Very, very sad, a very sad moment for the entire music community across the world. Rob, back to you.
Thank you, Robbo. Okay, well, it's time to go back down the rabbit hole with the list king himself. Bruno, welcome back to the Ange, Rob and Robbo show.
Bruno!
Hey, guys, it's so exciting to be back. How's it all going? Seeing you guys at night. Ooh, I like it.
Do you like it, Bruno?
I really do. You know what I really like the most, Rob, is like you'll be doing the show, but you'll also be texting me little messages during it, and I'm always trying to figure out like how do you manage to do both so well?
Oh, mate, I'm swimming like a duck under here. And look, while we're talking about that, a full apology to everyone. We've had a few audio issues tonight, and I'm sure I haven't even had a chance to look at the commentary. I'm sure you're all talking about it. But we're trying to get on top of it. But that's what's happening, Bruno. I'm here, I'm typing, I'm texting, and yeah, I try to make it all look seamless and fail miserably.
Oh no, it's going great. I've loved the discussions. How good's Prue with the one-liners about people's names? Oh, the best.
She's the best. Hey, mate, what have you got for us?
So a couple of hours ago, I released a list of international cuisine power rankings. So in other words, like Italian food, Chinese food. I decided to sit down and throw together a bit of a list of like what's good, what's average, and what's shit. And I released it, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly negative. So I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll maybe it's worth discussing with you guys, and if you agree, finding out if you don't, where I may have gone wrong, perhaps.
Well, take us through it, Bruno. Let us see what it's all about.
Guys. So the way that I do these lists, I have 5 tiers. Cat vomit tier is the worst one. And so we start off down the bottom with Chinese, Mexican, and German. I think that's pretty straightforward, right? Like, I mean, Chinese food, let's be honest. I mean, it's everywhere, but it's just greasy, and it's just full of MSG, and it's disgusting, and it's not really fine dining.
Whoa, Bruno, what? I love a good succulent MSG 1995 style Chinese with the red lanterns and the stomach ache afterwards. Really? That's you don't love that?
You see, I feel that the test as to whether or not it's nice food is, would you go out on a first date to a Chinese restaurant? And the answer, of course, is no, because you'd both get food poisoning, and there's nothing hot about that.
That is untrue, Bruno. I spent 35 years in Hong Kong and had many first dates at a Chinese restaurant, and I'm still alive.
Well, I mean, that's what you'd say. Look, Chinese food absolutely sucks, and I've got to say, Mexican is the same as well. Mexican is the missionary position of international cuisine. It's just
I agree with this.
Boring.
Yeah.
It's just there. And you know what's amazing is, have you noticed whether you go to a Mexican restaurant or you eat from those old El Paso kits that you make at home, it's the same, right? Isn't that crazy? Like, there's no other cuisine where the at-home version is the same as the going out and paying more money version.
Well, that's my food out of the way. What else have we got?
All right, guys, I think we should move up to the next tier, which is the pleb tier. And there we've got four. We've got Korean, Indian, British, and Italian. Now, a lot of controversy from my Italian friends saying, mamma mia, how could you get the pizza and the pasta? You know, like
I love Italian.
Oh, they just carry on. And I mean, here's my issue with Italian food, right? Ultimately, their two main foods, pasta and pizza, they're both stolen. Like, pasta they stole from the Chinese, and pizza they stole from the Greeks. So it's like, well, I can't consider those two items when I'm weighing things up. So they're not really left with much. I mean, a chunk of Parmesan, I guess, we can throw that into the mix, but it's pretty average.
Okay. I can see why people are turning against you on this one. What else have you got?
Well,
what else is
let's
left?
move up to mid-tier, which is the Adam Sandler tier. And there we've got Aussie food, we've got Greek food, Spanish, and Thai. And look, I had a few people. I mean, it's amazing how self-loathing Australians are. There are so many Australians telling me, oh, our food is crap. It shouldn't be there. We're not worthy of it. And it's like, well, hang on a second. When have you ever turned down a Bunnings snag? Or when have you ever turned down a Lamington?
So why isn't that on the God tier?
Well, I mean, because, you know, at the end of the day, that's all we really have. I mean, I've sort of run out of steam talking about
Vegemite sandwiches. I'd live off Vegemite sandwiches.
Bruno, no wonder you've been criticised. What about the thrice cooked Chico roll? I mean, you have to have a thrice cooked, not a twice cooked. It's got to be thrice cooked Chico roll. You get that random one piece of carrot in it. It is to die for. I'm telling you now, you have not lived. That is godlike status. You go down to local fish show, you get them to cook it 3 times mandatory, and you shove that down your throat, and it will be an orgasmic experience, I'm telling you.
It's so funny, Prue, that you say that, because I grew up in a generation where Chico rolls became really offensive because of the Chico chicks, remember? And I remember my mother being like, oh, Chico rolls. We can't support Chico rolls. Look what they do to women.
Give them work.
I mean,
You've had a deprived childhood. That's appalling. You need to go down and gobble them up, kiddo, because I tell you, you will just go to another level.
Get them down your mouth, Bruno. I didn't say throw. Hey, what's the next tier? Jason's standing by.
Guys, let's move up to royalty tier. And in royalty tier, we've got American cuisine, we've got Turkish cuisine, we've got Japanese cuisine.
I didn't know Americans had a cuisine.
Well,
of course they
here's
do.
the thing, right? Here's the thing. They gave the world cheeseburgers. They gave the world mac and cheese. They gave the world nachos. I mean, these guys have done a pretty fantastic job of putting together good food. So, I mean, they invented fried chicken too. So, yeah, a tip of the hat to the Americans. Credit where credit's due.
Okay. All right. Are we up to the final one? Where are we? Are we up to God tier yet?
We are. We're up to God tier, and there are 3 that are right up there, neck and neck. We've got French food, we've got Vietnamese food, and we've got Lebanese food. I mean,
hang on. Whoa. I've got getting the bell. I think this is like the Olympics where, you can't have the French judging the French.
Exactly.
No, but hang on a second. I have
Oh la la.
Hang on a second. I've been very public about how much I hate the French. Like, they're despicable people. They piss the bed. They carry on. They're bad love makers. But despite all that, I've got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, French food is amazing. Whether you want to look at the breads, the patisserie, them throwing butter, garlic, and salt on anything that possibly moves, like snails, frogs, whatever. I mean, they've done an amazing job. And any chef in the world that's like decent has studied food over in France. So, yeah, I know I'm going to come across as a typical arrogant frog, but it is what it is. What can I say?
Before we move on, I know this isn't very technical, but while we're talking about food with Bruno, don't tell me how I've got this photo, but I'm just going to put it on the camera here. So this is what we're doing. But if you're talking about food, I want to know where you felt at this time in your life. So hold on a minute.
Oh, hello. That's what he was doing. I saw Robbo doing that.
Oh, yeah, that's I think a 15-year-old Bruno when I was a crew trainer at the Indooroopilly McDonald's in Brisbane.
And from that to managing Carl Sanderlands.
Yeah, I've downgraded. Yeah.
Well, we would have.
I'm so glad that I got to use that photo.
Oh, that's brilliant. Hey, Bruno, we love you. We're glad you're going to be here every Wednesday night. We just think the world of you. So we'll see you next week.
Love you guys so much.
Bye,
Have
Bruno.
a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Sorry about that. Much love. Much love.
All right, now it's time to find out what's happening in the world of entertainment with Jason. Hello, Jason.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm just trying to find the right button for you, to be honest.
Now, no one's noticed my haircut, by the way. Can we all comment?
Oh, lovely.
Amazing. Stunning.
Slick.
Looks
Yes.
fabulous.
10 years younger.
You're not the only one taking a haircut. 2 legendary children's shows on 10 have been given the chop.
It's devastating news. My childhood.
Sorry, Jason, I need to stop. It is devastating news. I didn't mean to make light of it. I just was proud of myself for doing the segue. So this is really sad news. So sorry.
It is very sad news. My childhood will never be the same. Despite a 29-year run as one of Australia's favourite shows, 10 has taken the axe to Totally Wild, and science-based sister show Scoop has also been axed. When contacted by TV Black Box, a Network 10 spokesperson said, Network 10 today informed staff that Totally Wild and Scoop will no longer be produced. 10's strategy has evolved to include the development and production of more children's drama programs. The move falls in line with Channel 7, which axed its children's television productions last year. Rob, is Australia saying no to more to children's TV? Do they not want to see it on our screen?
I want to jump in here, Jason. I was very, very lucky to have worked on Totally Wild and Scope from 2006 until 2013. It was a great production. It was local production in Brisbane, which had all but disappeared at that moment. This is a really sad day for television. An amazing amount of people have passed through that office. An amazing group of people was still working in that office up until today, unfortunately. Of course, we've got to pay homage to Ranger Stacey. She's been on the program for 29 years, and it is just an amazing run. It is really, really sad. I'm actually getting goosebumps about it because this show taught me how to do it. But these shows are amazing, and really passionate people work on them. It is just really so sad. There's Dr. Rob Bell on Scope, and they're all very passionate about what they were doing. And they were one of the last productions really up on the hill in Mount Coot-tha in Brisbane, apart from news. A very sad day, and my thoughts and prayers and love are with everyone who have unfortunately lost their jobs today.
Definitely sending our love, but I've got a surprise for us all. I have managed to dig up some old footage from Scoop. Take it away.
Welcome to another Scope of the Ted Petrie, and turn up the volume. It's great to be with me. Earthquakes. These ground shakers can cause lots of damage and destruction.
Okay.
But recently, a team of researchers from the University of
No, we're
Manchester
gonna keep going.
found a way to use rubber to make buildings invisible to earthquakes. I'm Ted Petrie, and invisibility isn't my style.
Okay, all right. Let's jump that. We've run out of time now for that. Can I quickly tell you, just really quickly, I know you've got more entertainment, but I'm just going to say, that mustache, when I bought it, I turned it over and it said made with 100% human hair. It didn't specify where it came from. No, I don't think it's good.
No.
I can still in my mouth. Sorry, go on. Sorry. Sorry.
Hey, Jason, this is the shocking celebrity couple of the decade. And Sam Neill has just announced he's broken up with someone, and it was someone we didn't even know he was going out with. And she's Australian, and she works for the ABC. Share the shocking details.
Well, Rob, one of my favourite Hollywood actors, Sam Neill, who I love in Jurassic Park, he was in a relationship with Laura Tingle, and they've quietly split after 3 years together. According to a report in the Sydney Morning Herald's Private Sydney, a Hollywood star and the ABC presenter have quietly gone their separate ways. After 3 years together, they managed to keep their romance relatively private over the years, but appeared together in public at the 2018 Midwinter Ball at Parliament House. But I particularly love the story of how they met. Neil reached out to insiders after he saw her on a television program. They basically went on Instagram and slid into her DMs.
And you know what that show would have been? The 7:30 report. Anyway.
I'd like to see. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Prue.
So, yeah, there you go.
I was going to ask you about Dolly Parton, mate. I hear she might be reviving another show, or is she just flogging a dead horse?
No.
Indeed, remade a classic. The song 9 to 5 to celebrate the side hustle lifestyle for a new Super Bowl advert. The new version of the track now is going to be called 5 to 9. It's going to air for a commercial for Squarespace at the American football event this weekend. Let's take a quick look at the commercial.
Working 5 to 9, you've got passion and a vision, 'cause it's hustling time, a whole new way to make a living. Gonna change your life, do something that gives it meaning with a website that is worthy of your dreaming.
That's terrible.
That's appalling.
No,
Dolly's just doing it for the money, honey.
Yeah, I agree.
She is just doing the money. The statement, though, credit to her. She said a lot of people through the years have wanted to change the lyrics to fit certain things they're doing. I really thought that this was a wonderful thing, especially with Squarespace. They're so into people, new entrepreneurs, working after hours to start their own businesses. 5 to 9 seemed to be the perfect thing when they pitched it. But anyway, she is making the media rounds as well, because it's been revealed that she turned down meeting Donald Trump twice. Not once,
Good girl.
twice.
She didn't just turn him down. Didn't she turn down the Presidential Medal of Freedom or something?
Yeah, that's correct. The Presidential Medal of Freedom. I feel so. He wanted to just meet her. Say g'day.
All right, the clock is ticking. You better quickly tell us about who was the replacement for Joel Creasy. Who was originally getting the job for Joel Creasy?
Well, it was meant to be Freddie Flintoff, but he was axed from hosting Australians' version of Take Me Out because apparently of the way that he speaks. I've never listened to him, but the cricketer is said to have filmed a pilot down under but failed to impress the bosses. This has been revealed by his top-tier co-host, Paddy McGuinness. Paddy was the host of the UK's version of Take Me Out for 10 years. And for those who have never watched Take Me Out, I've done a little bit of research. Picture a single man arriving on a stage in a love lift where he's greeted by a panel of 30 women. All of the women have a life on the man, and the man has to try and convince as many ladies as possible to leave their lights on for him before he picks which girl he likes. Australia doesn't need another dating show. I'm putting my foot down.
Well, they didn't. The show actually went to air and everybody missed it. Hey, we've really got to run. We're over time. Jason, we'll fix your audio tomorrow. Yes. Prue, thank you for being here. We love you, Prue. You're welcome back anytime, my dear.
Love you guys too. Thank you.
And we'll see you all tomorrow as we stream live across the world. It's the Ange, Rob and Robbo Show.
It's the Ange, Rob and Robbo Show.